It's Tuesday, September 24. Good afternoon. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. The driver of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC bus, who was accused of fatally stabbing a taxi operator yesterday at the intersection of Washington Boulevard and Patrick Drive in St. Andrew, is now in police custody. He was held when he reportedly turned up for work this morning. He is to be questioned by the police. Meanwhile, opposition spokesman on transport, Michael Phillips, says there needs to be some law to eradicate the chaos which now takes place on the nation's roadways on a daily basis.
And we've been asking for a policy, some intervention from the Ministry of Transport and the government itself, which has not been forthcoming. We're hoping that the police gets to the bottom of what has taken place, both in the New Kingston area and the Doing Park area, and hoping that the investigations will lead to arrest.
In the meantime, Mr. Phillips is questioning the use of surveillance cameras which were installed on the JUTC buses some months ago.
The JUTC has spent money in putting in security on some of the buses, so it begs the question what has happened to that expense and if it is still something that is happening. But also you can deal with some of the hostility and chaos on the roads by enforcing the law for one, and also by a policy. The government itself needs to. We've been saying that there is too much chaos on the road. It's a free-for-all system. A free-for-all system that has been taking place on the road, and that there needs to be the government needs to at least step in.
Now, the comments from Mr. Phillips comes on the heels of an incident yesterday where a taxi operator was injured. We'll have details on that in a story later on in this newscast. In other news, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett is going to London today in an effort to alleviate any fallout in tourist numbers after Thomas Cook's collapse on Sunday. The tour company, which offers packages to various tourist destinations, including Jamaica, announced its decision to enter into compulsory liquidation and cease operation immediately. However, despite scores of current and future visitors to Jamaica utilizing the company, the tourism minister says Jamaica's preparation will lessen the impact on the tourism product.
Has been ahead of the curve in terms of our recognition of where tourism is going and the impact of the fourth industrial revolution that is having on the industry overall.
He notes that technology has been driving industry changes, linking visitors directly to suppliers, whereby forcing out traditional tour operators.
We are not surprised because we have known that the OTAs have taken a big chunk of the distribution trade. We see what Expedia is doing. We saw what Travelocity is doing, and Booking.com and so on. But more importantly, we see that the customer now has the power to make his own choices and to book himself. So it's a whole disruptive arrangement that has taken place in the distribution trade, which has to be recognized, and those who didn't pay the price.
President of the People's National Party, PNP, Dr. Peter Phillips, has suggested that there has been no significant improvements in the economy since his party left office in 2016. He was speaking at Monday's press conference following the annual conference of the opposition party.
The point-to-point inflation rate in August 2019 was 4.1%, the same as it was in 2016. The fiscal surplus was 0.4% of GDP, the same as it was in February 2016. The current account deficit is the same 2.5% of GDP. The NIR is only marginally above, about $200 million above where we left it in 2016.
He again took issue with economic growth projections. The government had admitted that 5% growth in 4 years would not be possible.
All the loose talk of 5% growth in 4 years has been replaced by a sobering reality that growth is now declining. It was 1% in the last quarter, and the projected outturn for this year is to be less than 1%.
Meanwhile, the PNP president is lamenting the lack of water in the corporate area due to ongoing roadworks. Dr. Phillips argues that the projects are badly managed.
The fact is they don't have the resources, they're not providing the trucks, and for months they have been promising that people will get water. We have a similar problem with businesses that have been forced to close because of the way the road work has been done. Businesses along the Constant Spring Road corridor, businesses along the Hagley Park Road corridor, businesses around Portia Simpson Miller Square, all of which really leave the economy poorer.
And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More news after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the news. A killing, counter-killing, and chaos. That's the situation that has marred the transport industry this morning, leaving commuters stranded, bus operators fearing for their lives, and several groups calling for calm. Hundreds of commuters left stranded Tuesday morning across the corporate area and sections of St. Catherine. It follows a deadly dispute allegedly between a robot taxi driver and a Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC driver on Washington Boulevard in St. Andrew Monday evening. It's understood that an altercation developed between both drivers, during which the taxi operator was stabbed. The driver of the JUTC bus also received injuries. This video that has been circulating on social media shows the injured taxi driver being taken from the scene, but he later succumbed to his injuries. He has been identified as 27-year-old Aquino Britton of Ambrook Lane in St. Andrew. Following the incident, several voice notes were heard on social media threatening violence to JUTC drivers in retaliation for the killing. Hours later, in what is believed to be a retaliation, a different JUTC bus driver was shot and killed on Oxford Road in St. Andrew. JUTC drivers then withdrew their service, fearing for their lives. Amid the chaos, we spoke with Transport Minister Robert Montague this morning, who called for calm among stakeholders.
I have spoken to a number of taxi presidents. I've spoken to the management at JUTC, the Transport Authority, and the police. The police have given an assurance that they have increased patrols and manpower. As a matter of fact, they are now setting up operations at the Rockfort Depot and at the Spanish Town Depot to provide increased patrols on the routes.
The opposition has also issued a statement calling for calm in the sector. Up to news time, an emergency meeting involving the police, taxi associations and unions was still in progress at the JUTC. In the meantime, commuters have been struggling to get to their destinations.
How long now are you waiting on a bus?
How long will it about an hour now?
I don't know, because the bus is charging $300 and I don't have it.
Which bus is charging $300?
The coaster bus.
It's understood that taxi drivers were also charging passengers up to $500 for fares. Some commuters told TVJ News that they were forced to return home as they could not afford the cost and had no other option. Energy Minister Favour Williams has given more insight into the government's decision to wind up the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, PCJ. She was responding to criticism from the parliamentary opposition that the decision was done hastily and without consultation. In a media release today, Ms. Williams said the decision was deliberate, well thought through and timely. She suggested that resources at the PCJ are not being used to their full potential. Mrs. Williams pointed to human capital and assets on the PCJ's balance sheet, which she said were underutilized. She said the PCJ is also appropriating more than $1 billion or $2 billion from every liter of fuel it supports to support its operation. Additionally, the PCJ has idle commercial and residential real estate assets and $5 billion in cash and deposits on its balance sheet as at March this year. Ms. Williams said the decision to consolidate Petroleum Ethanol Limited into Petrojam eliminates the markup on ethanol, which the decision regarding Jamaica Aircraft Fueling Services will cauterize its losses. And we go down to an item of news just in. TVJ News understands that Jamaica Urban Transit Company buses have resumed operations, but JUTC Corporate Communications Manager Cecil Toms says it will be done on a phased basis. Now we'll have more on this developing story in primetime news at 7. The National Water Commission, NWC, says the water levels at both dams in the corporate area have increased, but warns that the country is not in the clear just yet. Minister with responsibility for water, Pernell Charles Jr., made the declaration at a press conference this morning.
As of today, the Hermitage Dam has moved up 4% to 44%. The Mona Reservoir is now at 38%, which is an increase, an improvement from where it was 2 weeks ago, which was below 32. And if we continue to get rainfall, which we are told we will, we can look towards the Hermitage Dam moving upwards to 50% and the Mona Reservoir upwards of 40. What this means is that we'll have more water to provide, but we will still have to conserve.
We go down to news in sports. It's as you were on the Red Stripe Premier League table for UWI FC and Mount Pleasant Football Academy after both teams failed to find the back of the net in their Monday night contest at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex. UWI goalkeeper Amal Knight came up with some important saves on the night to keep the St. Anne-based team at bay, but the students could not find a way past the Mount Pleasant defense. The result sees the UWI remaining 6th on 5 and Mount Pleasant 7th also on 5 points. In cricket, 3 wickets apiece from Shamar Springer and Imran Khan led the Jamaican Talawas to a narrow 5-run win over the Barbados Trident in a low-scoring affair at the Kensington Oval last evening. The Talawas put to bat were dismissed for just 127, with Glenn Phillips 41 and Ramal Lewis 27 getting the most runs. Jason Holder, Sandeep Lachamin and Raymond Reefer also ended with 2 wickets each. Now, with 128 runs to get for victory, the Tridents were restricted to 122 for 9 from their 20 overs. Jason Charles top scored with 31, while Reefer got 26. This as Khan bagged 3 for 19 and Springer 3 for 32. Dwayne Smith also picked up 2 for 22. And that wraps up the midday news. I'm Herman Green. Remember, join us at 7 for the primetime news package. On behalf of the News Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.